program on an alternate date. The way it worked out, and it worked out very well because there was some obligations that some of the persons in the studio had, and we didn't do our program on the regular time, which is Monday at 2 o'clock. But it was put Wednesday instead, and that worked out well because not that it was planned this way, but it worked out well because it was the day after the election had occurred, and so we had the numbers in about who had actually won the election, and we were able to make some comment about the outcome, which we had predicted here at the studio that this was going to be a wipeout, and that Donald Trump was going to win the election in landslide. I had gone. I think I told you I'd gone to. I have a timeshare in Nevada, and I thought that would be a good time to go and take the. I have a week each year. And I thought it'd be a good time to go out there to Nevada, since it was saying this was one of the seven states altogether with toss-up states. And I thought I would go out there and just kind of take the temperature of what the climate was like out there, since that was one of the swing states. And want to see what the people were saying out there. And I went to, they had, it just so happened, maybe this was planned at the last minute. I don't think it was planned before I got there, but that Thursday, the Thursday before I was going to leave Las Vegas, which would have been the 24th of October. I was supposed to have been there from the 18th to the 25th. And on the 24th, that Thursday, Donald Trump had a last-minute schedule of a rally at the University of Las Vegas, and I decided, although I'm on vacation here, and I was trying to just take a couple of days to get ready for the final push toward the election, I decided to go to that rally. They had the rally at 10 o'clock on the 24th of October, and I went there. I wanted to just see what kind of reaction they would have to Donald Trump coming in for the rally at the last minute. Was it a week before? About a week before the election, because the election was on the 5th of November, and so the 20. Let's see, that would have been the 20. Maybe 2 weeks, about 2 weeks before the election, and I wanted to see what was all they were saying that Donald Trump was having a problem with the Hispanic vote and had a problem with the black vote and so on and so forth. I thought the numbers had gone up in both cases, and I didn't know how they were able to figure out this is going to be a problem in each of those states that were saying that were states that were toss-ups. Now, you know what, the outcome in each of those 7 states, Donald Trump carried each one of them. There was no, Michigan was supposedly up for grabs. Michigan was in Trump's corner. Nevada was supposed to be up for grabs, and that state was in Trump's corner. And so was the big one with the 19 electoral votes was Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania went in for Donald Trump. So I just wanted to go and look at and talk to some people about how they saw the upcoming election. I was very impressed with the amount of support Donald Trump had in Nevada. It was saying Nevada was tossed up, and it was leaning Harris and Walsh and so on. And I didn't find that when I went out there. I was just amazed at how much support Donald Trump had among the Hispanic population. And I saw the shift going on in the black community the same way. I could see the panic, because these were supposed to be pretty much the staple in the Democratic Party. You could count on the black vote, you can count on the Hispanic vote, and the minority vote, as they would say. But when I went to that rally was Thursday night, the 24th of October, and I think that Coliseum that they had it in. It was on the campus of the University of Las Vegas. I think that it. I think the one report was that place seated 29,000, and that means that it seated more than what you were able to put into a Madison Square Garden, because Madison Square Garden would hold, unless you're just doing the overflow with people standing in the back and so on. I think it will seat 19,500. The report that I got was that in Las Vegas, that Coliseum that we were sitting in, that was 20. They said it was 29,000 people. Anyway, it was packed. And when I got there, because I went there close to about 10 o'clock, I didn't want to do what I did when Donald Trump came to Flint. Our IMA arena holds 8,000 plus, and I knew I had to get down there early to get in. And so I went. So we get. I didn't want to stand outside again 3 and 4 hours before it starts. So when I got to Vegas, I went there very close to the time that Donald Trump was supposed to arrive. So I got there about 9:30. But going inside, I was asking, "Can you still get in?" And when I got there, it was crowded, but everybody was seated, and there were seats available, and so on. And I was just amazed at how many persons were in that Coliseum that were Hispanic. And I was saying to myself, this man's supposed to have a problem with the Hispanic vote, and it's they're saying that the numbers are not the numbers that I saw there, and I'm just looking to see that where's the problem they're talking about, because that crowd, it was there were a few seats available, but that place was packed, and the energy in that Coliseum was similar to the energy that I saw when Donald Trump came to Flint. I mean, the Flint arena, 8,000 plus persons that were there. There were no seats available in that arena, and this is a strong Democratic town. Genesee County is that way, and for Donald Trump to be pulling that kind of traffic to his event in this town here, which he was doing that in a number of places, by the way, because look at what happened in New York. New York was persecuting Trump. Letitia James and this Alvin Bragg over there in the borough in Manhattan, and just the persecution that was going on. Look at the judge there in New York, one Merchan, and this man was pulling that man filled that arena up. So that's what I saw in Las Vegas, and I came back because I'm leaving out the next day. I came back to Flint, and I'm saying to myself on the plane back, I'm saying this election is over. If this is supposed to be a state, Nevada, that Donald Trump was supposedly trailing in, I saw that support that he had. I said, if this is a state up for grabs, and I saw the energy in that auditorium, I said this election is over. And I came back and I said when I got back here in Flint that this is going to be a one-sided election. This is going to be an election that Donald Trump wins in a landslide. And Jan and I were talking about it, and I was saying, look, this is a done deal. They're going to be surprised by the numbers. This is not going to be a close election. And we don't have the final numbers yet in terms of how many popular voters, endorsed Trump's campaign. But I will tell you this, based on what happened and what we could see was getting ready to happen is that you cannot call this a comeback. That's a mislabeling of this election, because in order for it to have been a comeback, it would have had to have been that Donald Trump numbers would have gone down from what it was in 2016 when Donald Trump won the election. Donald Trump didn't get as many popular votes in 2016 as Hillary Clinton got. He got he got he got 306 electoral votes, but he did not win the popular vote.
This time he won the popular vote.
And this time, you see, that's why you can't say it's a comeback, because a comeback would have been that in 2020, where Donald Trump was supposed to have been defeated by Biden, because Biden had gotten 82 million votes. But Donald Trump got 12 million more popular votes in 2020 than he got in 2016. It did, see, the voting didn't make any sense to me, because not only the labeling was wrong, but the voting itself could not have been correct, because no incumbent president ever done that before. You never had an incumbent president whose numbers went up in the incumbency, because you see what happens when you have a sitting president, and Obama's a good example of this. Biden is running under Obama as his vice president. You saw for Obama had 69 million votes in 2008 when Obama was elected first time to the presidency. 4 years later, in 2012, now I know they say it went from 69 to 65, but I think it was lower than that. I think he lost 7 million votes in the 2012 election, but he's running against Romney, so that still was enough of the popular vote to carry him into being victorious in 2012. But the vote did fall off from 2008 to 2012. That's not what happened to Donald Trump. Donald Trump won 63, let's round it off to 63 million votes in 2000 in 2016, but in 2020, Donald Trump got 75 million votes. His vote total went up by 12 million votes, and that's not supposed to happen. It had not happened before in an election, because the vote for an incumbent after he served for 4 years, that number has always gone down, even if it just goes down a little bit. But it goes down dramatically in most cases. It went down dramatically in Obama's case. And don't forget, Biden is running as Obama's vice president. You see, it didn't make any sense for the underling, meaning running as the vice president under Obama, for the underling to do better in the election that he ran in for president than Obama, because if he's that much better as a candidate as Obama, then why is he serving as the vice president if he's more popular than the president is? You would think that they would have put the guy that has the greatest amount of attraction to the voters at the top of the ticket. This anomaly that did not make any sense. And it still doesn't make any sense, because that's not what happened. We think that this is a comeback. It was billed as a comeback election on the part of Donald Trump, but that's not really true. This was a reiteration of the voters not leaving undone what they had put in place on two previous votes. Donald Trump did well in 2016, and he did better in 2020. And that's what he said, as a matter of fact. He said that the support that he was getting in 2020 was greater than the support he got in 2016. You can see that in terms of the outcome of the popular vote. 12 million more votes in 2020 than in 2016. Losing in 2020 when the vote total was 12 million more votes. Winning in 2016 when they got less popular vote. See, these are anomalies that don't make any sense whatsoever. And it causes the question exactly what Donald Trump was saying, and I said it also in terms of looking at the numbers later on, is that those numbers cannot be true. Because if Trump is winning with 63 million votes in 2016, but losing with 75 million votes in 2020, how is it happening that you're losing by gaining at the same time? You're gaining more votes, but you're losing with more votes 4 years later than you had 4 years earlier. It makes no sense. And I tell you what the mistake was that they made in terms of those who went to Washington knowing they didn't make any sense and went there to challenge those numbers. The mistake that they made, people like Sidney Powell and some of the others that were that were challenging the vote, the mistake that they made is they put the vote anomaly upon the voting machines, and that brings in then the machines now are being blamed for it, and that company that put the machines in place, that then brings them into the discussion, and that's where the problem came in. They sued Powell and some of the others for making these claims that the company had in fact finessed the vote. That's not what happened. They imported votes from different arenas based upon having votes ready to go into whatever area it was needed to bring about the already predetermined result. That's what happened as sure as I'm sitting here. It wasn't the machines. It was the criminals that were doing the. It was, you see how it's not so all the time the vote count. Sometimes it's who's counting the votes. So it wasn't that Donald Trump lost the election. It's that the persons were ready for him in 2020, we were not ready in 2016. I'll make this argument here also. I make this claim, and I said it before, and I said this in 2016. Having looked at all of the things that were going on during that time period and how they were so assured that Donald Trump had no chance in 2016, that they didn't put in place a contingency plan to make what they had said was going to happen, to make it a fait accompli. They did not put any contingency plans in place in case a fait accompli did not become a fait accompli. Let's say that what they said was going to happen did not happen. I mean, it was so assured that Hillary Clinton was a strong candidate, and here's this upstart coming in to the arena for the first time, running as an upstart, and they thought he had no chance, and they did not put a backup plan in place. I contend this. I still contend this, that if they had had a backup plan and had not been so assured that Hillary Clinton was going to win the election, but it had a backup in case it did not happen, Donald Trump would not have been allowed to go into the presidency at that point. But they didn't have anything that they didn't have nothing to stop him otherwise, because they just knew they just convinced themselves that this election was already a done deal. They didn't know that Donald Trump was working in many different ways to do things that had never been done before. I mean, for example, the election that he was running in some of the places like Wisconsin. What Donald Trump was doing was that when it came down to the Wisconsin vote, he was going next door and doing the campaigning with the ads and so on and so forth, so that in some parts of Wisconsin, they didn't see the ads that Donald Trump was running. In the southern part of Wisconsin. So they didn't see that they was working underneath the radar, so to speak. And they didn't, and in Michigan, they didn't see what was going on, because in Michigan, what Donald Trump was doing, and he did the day, I think it was the day before the election was held, and he came here in Michigan at 1 o'clock in the morning. The day before that morning, Donald Trump came into Michigan, Battle Creek, a conservative stronghold, and was campaigning at 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. And that was why the vote in Michigan swung in Donald Trump's favor in Michigan. He carried Michigan in 2016. This was supposed to be a state that Donald Trump was not supposed to do well in. I thought he would do well in it, because I thought that there was a split between what the people were saying in the leadership of the union and what the rank and file members were saying, and there was a split between the two of them. The rank and file was saying one thing, and the union membership paid off, of course, underneath the table. But this was a bread and butter issue for those that were not in the rank, that were not part of the establishment, and they stayed with the bread and butter candidate, and they wanted to maintain their jobs at the level where they were, in fact, working and getting paid. And they went, despite the leadership, they went and voted for Donald Trump, and that's why Michigan was carried. They were claiming everything was going to happen for. In fact, I knew that was happening because I listened to Debbie Stabenow. She said that they went, senator at that time of Michigan. She said she had gone to the UAW meeting, to a union meeting to speak about Biden, and all they want to talk about when they got there, all they want to talk about was Donald Trump. They want to talk about the things that Donald Trump was promising in terms of the tariff, the bringing back the jobs to Michigan as well as other parts of the country, and that's what they were relying upon, to bring the auto industry back. I mean, the auto industry is a Michigan industry, and Donald Trump was saying that he was going to do whatever it took to bring that back by any means necessary, and they were not going to let the leadership tell them they should endorse an issue or candidate carrying an issue that was adverse to their own economic interests. And that's how you could predict that something was going on here underneath the radar. But anyway, Donald Trump carried Michigan this past election. He carried. He carried. I know they said he lost Michigan 2016, but that could not have been the case. Not with what I saw, because I went out to the rural areas, and I did that also in this election as well. And all I saw were Trump signs. I didn't see any signs for Biden. Not in the outlying area.
Well, what I think surprising is the number of Trump signs I saw inner city Flint, which is a bastion for the Democrats.
Sure.
I've only saw a handful. Of course, I didn't go over to the East Village area, where the college cultural area. But the working class, the Democrats always say they speak for the working class, but they actually have a disdain for the working class. They have a kind of like, oh, I'm going to represent you, but you just got to understand that you got to trust me that I know better than you do about your situation in life. And that their arrogance, their sheer arrogance. I saw that in college. When I worked at the college, they thought they were the majority of the professors are all leftist, and they thought that they spoke so well, but they really had the scorn for people working class.
They picked up on that too, and that's why they voted for the Republican ticket this time, and had done that in the past. I don't think it's correct to say that this election was a comeback on the part of Donald Trump, because if you look at his numbers, his popular vote numbers increased each time that he ran. The 3 times he ran, his numbers increased each time. I think that it's going to come out this time in this election, 2024. I think it's going to show that Trump probably got 72 million votes. That, in other words, his popular vote trumped the popular vote against his opposition, that is Hillary Clinton and Biden. Although they're saying that Biden got 81 million votes, that's an anomaly. There's somebody got to explain to me about how that could happen, because 81 million votes, and then it falls back down to 70. I think Kamala Harris in the final vote totals was something like 71 million votes, and Biden gets 82 million votes. That doesn't fly in terms of what really occurred in the 2020 election. If that had happened, then that means that Biden was stronger as a candidate than Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. Barack Obama never got out of the 60s in terms of his popular vote. 69.2 million in 2008. And then I think it was 62 million. They say 65, but 62 million in 2012. So Biden was running as a stronger candidate than Barack Obama, but running as his vice president, not running at the top of the ticket. And Obama was supposed to be the stronger candidate than Biden was, and Biden didn't even campaign in 2012 because he stayed and really in 2020, because he stayed in his basement because of the COVID virus hoax. And that was a hoax, by the way. No question about it being a hoax. We now know that that this was fear-mongering to keep people away from the poll and to justify the mail-in ballot, which is the way in which they, in fact, finessed the balloting in 2020. Because in order to bring Biden into winning, because he didn't have any visible support. We're going to look at those rallies they was holding. There was no evidence that there was any enthusiasm around that campaign. There was less enthusiasm around Biden's campaign than there was around Hillary Clinton. And there was no enthusiasm for Hillary Clinton. Go back and look at these elections and see that this is something going on here that was very different than what was really going on. Our lying eyes were telling us something very different because we didn't see any of the things they were telling us that was going on. And they were telling us that there was all this enthusiasm for Hillary Clinton. There was no evidence of it. What was the evidence of that? There were maybe more cars, but in terms of the crowd that was coming into her rallies, there was no evidence, none, that was going on during that time period. And you could see that something was going on here. You couldn't put your finger on it, but something was going on very different than what we've been told. But you could not challenge it because it had not happened yet. But they were stunned the night of the election on November the 8th, 2016, the date of the election that year. They were stunned by that because they convinced themselves that Trump had no shot. And I can understand why they would do that, because it never happened before. A person that was a novelist in the electoral process, who had no military background, who had never held an election political office before, running against a seasoned politician who had been in Washington and around the center of power for 30 years because her husband had been president. And what was to put your hat on that there was any shot this guy had? But this is not your typical politician. I don't think he's a typical politician even now. He's because you're not supposed to say things that Donald Trump is saying. You don't have to do any guessing about how this man feels. The man comes out and says that to a fault sometimes. And now we see that this election in 2024, well, you cannot say now that this is an anomaly in any way, because Donald Trump not only won the electoral vote, which he won in 2016, but he won the popular vote and the electoral vote. I think the numbers now, I had predicted he would get 298 electoral votes. You need 270. And Donald Trump has, I think now they're saying that he is around 302. He just won Arizona. And I'm looking to see what happens in the senatorial vote in Arizona. I think that's still being contested, because I think that Lake out there in Arizona, I think that I don't know if that's been called yet. But if she doesn't get the senatorial position, because she's a strong Trump supporter, I would think that Trump would want to bring her into his administration, because she was with him when others were not walking with Donald Trump. And I must give the president-elect a lot of credit, because he closed the door on Mike Pompeo and closed the door on Nikki Haley, and that's what he should have done.
Yeah, because Tucker Carlson covers that Pompeo actually wanted to put a hit out on Julian Assange. And I mean, this was when he was the CIA director. And there's nothing. I mean, this guy didn't deserve that, and he was willing to overstep. He was brutal, and so I mean, he was overstepping his bounds. And I guess I'm glad that he, Trump decided. Besides, he threw Trump under the bus as soon as he got a chance to do it.
Yes,
So,
he did.
I don't trust Nikki Haley either.
John, you saw it. He did throw Donald Trump under the bus, and then when they thought that Donald Trump was weakened and was no longer going to be a viable candidate on the national scene, they all came out to challenge him for the hegemonic position in the Republican Party. You notice how all of them came out of the woodwork and were challenging Donald Trump in the primary? They thought that this man was gone, because he had, quote unquote, lost the election in 2020, so they're going to challenge him in 2024. I don't think the end of the ones that challenged Donald Trump in 2024, and that includes Vivek Ramaswamy. I don't think any of them should be in that cabinet.
But what I also think is J.D. Vance started out as a never Trumper, wasn't he? And then now he's his vice president, his vice president elect to go along. So I mean, that shows you right there. He's got ability to bring in critics and put their fears to rest. Or for some reason he worked magic. I mean, because that's what I didn't know much about J.D. Vance until I heard that he was actually started out as an anti-Trumper, and then I started looking at that.
I have a lot of respect for him, because he changed his mind once he got into the seat that what he had fallen for was what the press was putting out there, and that he had fallen for the imagery that they had put out there about Donald Trump. But once he found better, he changed his mind on it, and Donald Trump understood a person like that, who sometimes you don't have all of the available information, and you make a decision based upon the incomplete information that you have, but you're honest enough to then say you made a mistake. And he did that, and Donald Trump understood this is an unusual thing that a politician will do, because they don't want to ever correct themselves and admit they were wrong, because they can't show the kind of fallibility. They don't want to show they're fallible, because the point is that they have a certainty about what their positions are, and the stands that they make on the politics and on the people they support. And this man was able to say he made a mistake, and Donald Trump understood he could trust a person like that. That's why he's on the ticket and others are not. Pompeo is not going to. Pompeo was told he would not be brought into any consideration to be in Trump's administration. And once he gets all the ducks lined up about who's going to serve in his administration, Pompeo knows he's not going to be a part of that, and so does Nikki Haley understand that. And that's Donald Trump being upfront with them. They're not going to be a part of his administration. Now, I would have a problem with. I understand why he's doing it, but I would have a problem with Vivek Ramaswamy. Because I think and also, believe it or not, with Ron DeSantis in Florida, I don't trust any. Looking at Tim Scott of South Carolina, I have a problem with all of those persons that ran against Donald Trump in the primary, because what they should have done, knowing how the man was unfairly treated, they should have then got behind him to say that we're not going to, in fact, buy into kicking the person when he's down, because what they're doing to him is wrong. They should have stood with Donald Trump at that point in time and shown some character. They didn't do that. And that's Ramaswamy as well. I know the slim pickings over there and why he'll be picking Vivek Ramaswamy in his administration. But I'm telling you that this man showed a lack of character. And I don't think that he should be a part of Trump's administration, because he's shown the man cannot be trusted. The man doesn't have character. What they should have done was rally behind him, because what they were doing to him was in fact immoral, illegal, and unconstitutional. Now, let me say this about. I'm glad to be able to throw that in there, because let me say something about the Constitution, because I heard Sean Hannity's not Sean. No, this is not Sean Hannity's program. This was Mark Levine's program. His Saturday program. Mark Levine made the comment that they could not do to Donald Trump what they're doing to him because of the federal system, a president being brought to the court because of the standard of the president and the other persons who are lesser on the state level, and so on and so forth. So that would have prohibited Donald Trump being in a court of law. And so it's federalism that they were claiming would be the standard in terms of why the bringing him into like the court was inappropriate based upon the Constitution. Now that may sound correct, but that's not correct. It may seem like that would be the going rate, but they need to understand something about the Constitution of the United States, because it's not the federal issue here. It is a separation of powers issue. Now let me explain this to all these scholars. Here is the dilemma in the separation of powers. The separation of powers is, if you look at Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3, you'll find that the Constitution lays out distinctly the role of each of the three branches of the federal government. Article 1, the legislative branch. Article 2, the executive branch, and of course, Article 3, the judicial branch of government. And it puts a hedge around each one by laying out what the particulars are in that branch. So that in each of those branches, the corridor of power there is beholden to the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. But you also, at the same time, even though there's a hedge around them in their area of domain, you also want to be able to hold let's say the executive in this case, hold the executive to an account. So if it's just the distinctiveness of the role applying to the executive branch of government, then that means then in that fiefdom, what then prohibits the president from doing what he wants to do and going out of control? Because you also want to restrain power. You separated it, but in the separation is a hedge around it. If that hedge cannot be penetrated, then the president, through the separation, can go out of control because his powers are separate and distinct. Here's how they fixed it. They fixed it by the impeachment process. That's very important to understand. You see, here's what happens with the impeachment process. You can penetrate that hedge, but the hedge can only be penetrated by impeachment and conviction upon the impeachment. That's what these scholars do not understand. The hedge is removed from around the president if he is in fact impeached and convicted. Once he is impeached and convicted upon the impeachment charge, that hedge is then removed, and the president then can be brought into a court of law. But without that, he cannot be brought into a court of law. It has nothing to do with the federal system. It has to do with the fact that the impeachment process has a protective layer around the president. And if it, in fact, is not removed, that hedge remains, and the impeachment process is the only way it can be removed, where it can be brought into a court of law. If you do not do that, you cannot bring the president into a court of law for what he did as president, even if he's out of office. That's how the process works. I'm here to tell every scholar in this country that's the process. I don't care what the scholars say. That's what I say. You have to, that hedge has to be removed from around the president of the United States through the impeachment process. And if that does not occur, then that hedge remains whether the president is in office or not in office, based on what he did while he's president of the United States. That's the process, as sure as I'm sitting here in this chair. And that hedge was not removed. Now, let's take Biden. I think Biden should be tried under Article 3, Section 3 of the Constitution, and I think that Biden is guilty of treason.
Yeah, but with his diminished capacity, I don't think he can be stand trial. I really don't think he can. Because the other day I saw this video just after the election. He was walking on a beach and sand was, and he was tripping all over himself just walking through sand. And his wife was walking alongside of him, and she was managing fine. He was just tripping all over the place. So he could. I mean, it might be just an act because he probably anticipates that might be a cause, but that might be a possibility of being prosecuted, but I think they're already working on to prevent that. They're going to do a diminished capacity scenario.
Yeah, that's what I think his name is claiming, that the diminished capacity. You know what? The Constitution does not recognize diminished capacity. Nowhere does it say that. The act is, if the act is in fact one that brings about the removal of that hedge from around the president, whatever the capacity was, the act was in fact done, and there can be action taken against the action, no matter what the capacity of the president is, and that hedge can be removed from Biden. But Biden is not going to be put before a court of law upon the charge of treason that I would claim he's guilty of under Article 3, Section 3, because there's been no impeachment brought against Biden, and therefore there is no chance of him being removed from office in the time that he has left in the presidential office. And they won't be able to do a thing with him once he leaves, because there's no impeachment, which must be brought, a charge must be brought while he's still in the executive office. Once he leaves office, you cannot impeach the president.
Even if it was like, okay, but can a citizen be charged with treason?
No.
He can't. A regular citizen.
To my Biden.
No, I said, so can a citizen be tried for treason? Because
but that's not through impeachment process though.
Okay, but he could be. No,
I'm saying the president. You see, the president has a special circumstance. He is the executive office holder in one branch of the government. He is a branch of government. The president is the executive branch of government.
But even if if he can't, they can't impeach him during the because let's face it, it's likely it's not going to happen real time soon because it's going to be a transition and stuff like that, and it's a big shakeup.
Yeah.
But I mean, so even after he's just a citizen now, a former president, he can't be brought up for charges for treason even after he engaged in
No,
an act of treason.
not what he did as president.
So he's exempted.
Yeah,
He got away with everything. He got everything.
that's
So
exactly.
he knows that. Yep.
Yeah, you see, if that's what I'm saying. If Biden leaves office and was not impeached, although I think he's guilty of treason, I think Burisma is that family being paid off, and this man is on tape. There's a video of him saying that he looked at his watch for emphasis to emphasize to the authorities in Ukraine. In other words, he looked at his watch and showed the clock is ticking, and if that person was that was a prosecutor that was getting ready to file charges against his son for the criminal behavior in Ukraine, he was saying, this is Biden on tape saying this. He's saying that if that prosecutor was not fired by the time that that he was leaving, if he was not fired, he's not gonna get the money that had been appropriated by Congress. What authority does he have to throw the money to the side that's been appropriated by the Congress for Ukraine? He has no authority to do that. But his son is involved in legal behavior in Ukraine, and Biden is saying you have to fire the guy, stop investigating the son because the son had violated Ukraine's law. They're taking money under the table. That's on record. But if they don't impeach Biden for that, and he steps out of office, and he did that while he's president, there's nothing that can be done about that. Is what I'm saying. That's the Constitution of the United States. The framers put in place the things that they're saying that a president must have. They're saying the president has to have immunity. There is no immunity of the president of the United States. If there's immunity, then the president's above the law. What they did is that they put the separation of powers there and then put the impeachment there so that if the president does something that he should not do, then you can, in fact, bring him to bend to the will of the law by, in fact, charging the president. But it must come through the impeachment process, is what I'm saying here. I'm right in this.
So no, I don't disagree with that, but I just think that's appalling that he's actually going to get away with treason. He's going to get away with it.
He will get away with it. You know why? Because the Constitution you cannot, in fact, have the Constitution suspended because an act occurs that you don't like. Do you know that our law sometimes allow for criminals to get away with what they get away with? You know why? Because the law is the protector of all the people. If you make exceptions for it so that you don't want this person to get away with it, you know he's guilty. I think we pretty much have agreed in the country that O.J. Simpson was guilty. But sometimes the person walks away from the penalty of the action they were involved in, because if you bend the law to get the results you want, it puts the country in jeopardy in total. So you throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, and everybody is put in jeopardy because you bent it so you get the outcome that I think the outcome was wrong with O.J. I think O.J. killed Ron Goldman and killed Nicole Brown. I think he killed both of those persons. But sometimes the applying the law as gets a verdict that is not fair based upon the evidence. You have to live with that because there would be some quirks sometime where that happens. But to maintain the integrity of the law, that's some persons that are guilty walk away from the crime, and you cannot try them again because of the double jeopardy clause in the Fifth Amendment. So sometimes the guilty get away with it. And Biden, I think, is very guilty of a violation of his office. But then if they don't impeach him, then I'm sorry. There's nothing you can do about it once he leaves office, and you have got to impeach him while he's in office, because once he leaves office, he cannot be impeached. That's why they ran with the impeachment of Donald Trump on the 21st, the 21st of January, the 21st of not 21st. It was the the 15th or the 16th of January, somewhere within a few days before Donald Trump was going to step down. They impeached him. Why did they impeach him? Because if you don't impeach him while he's in office, you can't impeach him once he leaves office. Impeachment, it says this in the impeachment clause. I'm getting too excited here because I know this better than they do. And I know what they're saying is wrong. They impeached Donald Trump on the days before he was out of office, because if he leaves office, he's not impeached. You cannot do it after he leaves office. You can do the trial after he leaves office, but you cannot impeach him, because it says the president and the vice president and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office upon impeachment for and conviction of treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. Therefore, if you have not impeached and convicted, the impeachment must take place before he leaves office. So you cannot impeach once he leaves office. You can convict after he leaves office, but you have to do the impeachment before he leaves office. Understand that little distinction there as well.
Okay, here's a scenario though.
Okay.
Say Trump does his 4 years here as the president. Okay, he runs a timeout, but can they still go back after what they want to initially charge him with now, or is there a statute of limitations then?
About with Trump?
Yeah, with Trump.
Given what now? Given that Trump has
see, they try to get him impeached. They try to get him. Okay, say he becomes a president. They can't put him in prison.
No. See, he was put on trial twice in his first term. They put him on trial twice. They impeached him right before the COVID came out. You see, COVID, if you go and trace it, COVID came out as another way, a stopgap against Trump once the first impeachment fell through. If you go look at the timeline, you'll see the COVID was brought on the scene as a way of shutting down the country, because Trump was running on, his strong suit was running on the economy that he had developed. And they had to shut that down because impeachment hadn't worked, the first impeachment. They had exonerated him in the Senate by him not being convicted on the impeachment charge. So then the day after that impeachment did not result in conviction, they then brought the COVID on the scene. Go look at the timeline. They were going to stop him now a different way. This was that 6 ways from Sunday that Schumer was talking about. They couldn't stop him through the conviction, through the impeachment process. They didn't convict him on it. So now they bring out the COVID to shut the economy down, because these people are so low down and dirty. They're willing to enter the country to get this man. That's what they were doing with COVID. Ain't no virus coming across no 4.5 quadrillion tons of air in the Earth's atmosphere. Earth's atmosphere is made up of between 4.5 to 5.5 quadrillion tons of air. That's Earth's atmosphere by my calculation. Ain't no virus and a multiple number of viruses going to penetrate and poison that much air in the atmosphere. Not as long as you have number one, you don't even breathe the same air, because the trees are sucking it up, because you're breathing and exhuming the carbon dioxide, and that's nothing but plant food for the trees, and they gobble it up, and then they're taking the carbon dioxide in and then producing oxygen. You got a rhythmic coordination between humans and the plant life, because it's producing the oxygen and you taking the oxygen in and putting the carbon dioxide in. the atmosphere, and they're eating it and feeding it on it because it's plant food. Is the carbon dioxide is. It's a rhythmic thing that nature has going here, and so they brought COVID out and claimed that COVID escaped in the Wuhan laboratory in China. Can you tell me one scientist from the WHO or the CDC that went to China to find that out? And if the virus had already escaped, how are they going to a Wuhan lab in China and finding a virus that already escaped out of the lab? How would they be able to do that? They didn't do it. This is a made-up lie to cover the track of them then shutting the economy down and then putting the vote in a more secretive mode by mailing out all the ballots to everybody, whether you requested or not, because they were going to take this election from Donald Trump, because Donald Trump was running strongly for re-election. He ran strongly in re-election because he got 12 million more votes in 2020 than he got in 2016. Go look at this. Look at this very, very carefully here. I wrote some things today on Facebook. Nobody's writing this. The things I said, go read my post on Facebook today. Because I'm going to tell you this. You go back and look at what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. Go back and look at that again. The same persons that were covering up the murder of the President of the United States, those same agencies were setting up the assassination of Donald Trump in this country. That's what was going on in Butler. But the backup plan was that it did not, in fact, come out that way because Donald Trump turned the last second and that bullet went by him and hit his ear and wounded him that way. The man turned and the kill shot didn't kill Donald Trump, but it was a warning to Donald Trump. People have not awakened yet to this, but let me tell you this. I'm the scholar here. This is a dangerous thing that's going on right now, because Donald Trump is bringing Robert F. Kennedy in his administration. Can you imagine what that is doing to rattle the deep state in this country? And the deep state exists in this country. Go look at what Kevin Shipp, a former member of the CIA, was saying in the interview. I sent it to John because I wanted John to look at it at minute 25 of this video that was made as Candace Owens, who's very brave in doing this, interviewed him, and this guy is talking about various things at the end of that tape. At the end of it, he's talking about a number of things that went on. The Martin Luther King murder, the Kennedy murder, the Butler situation and things of that sort. This is the deep state that's operating here. And you got to understand the rallying that's going on, because Donald Trump is bringing Robert F. Kennedy, whose brother whose nephew, whose uncle was killed in Dallas. His dad was of course killed in California. This man is being brought on board here. Can you imagine the danger, the rallying that's going on here with those two men being allied on the same team? And Donald Trump is promised Tucker Carlson. He's going to open up the files and let everything out in terms of what really went on in Dealey Plaza. I told a person today, go and read the book by Abraham Bolden. Nobody talks about Abraham Bolden. Abraham Bolden has a book out called Echoes from Dealey Plaza. Who is Abraham Bolden? Abraham Bolden is a black man who was put on the team, the security detail of John F. Kennedy, the first black man that served on the detail, and that man had already warned that the lax security around Donald Trump was endangering. I'm not Donald Trump. The lax detail around John F. Kennedy was endangering John F. Kennedy. How many persons are aware of the fact that when this man, when they put the report out of the Warren Commission report, which in fact harnessed all of the institutions of government that covered up what really went on in Dealey Plaza, and they covered up that this murder of the president was done by the deep state, and that showed me, John. Are we wrapping up here? Or what?
We got to go a couple more minutes.
Okay.
You can go a couple more minutes.
Yeah, they showed me the deep state is more powerful than the three branches of government. That's why when I wrote the article today, I didn't put deep state as I would normally do in parentheses. I don't think you can parenthetically put deep state in you can parenthetically place it there as a description, because it sits alongside of and in some ways above the three branches of government. Because understand the three branches of government, for example, with the legislative branch, is that, yeah, it's a legislative branch, but it's each member of the body acting as individuals inside of the body. The power of the deep state is that they're working as a unit, and it therefore, in many ways, and you can see that by the fact that that the deep state was covered up by the Warren Commission report that had each branch of government represented there. I think that the Warren Commission report, by the way, was a violation in terms of the composition of the Warren Commission, because Earl Warren was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and you can't bring the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court under a commission set up by the president, because it violates the separation of powers. The Warren Commission was in fact unconstitutionally constituted because the separation of powers does not allow you to put the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court under the auspices of the President of the United States. This is Moss speaking, and there's no scholar that can say anything about it. I'm telling you how it should operate in this country. There's no other scholar saying that. They're not going to challenge me on it either, because they're not on this level. I'm just telling you, they're not on this level. People think you can. People think because you come out of Eastern, you don't say Harvard. I'm not scared of Harvard. Those professors can't touch this. They're not on this level. None of them.
Okay, look how much they pay for go to Harvard, how much you paid and went to Eastern, and you got a better education. So they're stupid if they're paying that much for the name brand when it actually doesn't mean anything in the reality.
Get your money back. They cancel classes. Get a football team at Harvard University. That's what they should do, because it doesn't. Because the cat is out of the bag now. They're out there canceling classes because Donald Trump won the election. They know they can go to class now. They done paid $90,000 for an education and canceling classes where they don't get their money's worth just by the classes meeting. Get your money back. There's no professor at Harvard University that's qualified to say anything in what I taught here today. And if they think they're qualified, they should get the number and call. Let's have a public conversation. I can tell you right now, it's not going to be a contest. They're not on this level. Nobody's saying what I'm saying. And I wrote an article today that will go unchallenged on Facebook. Nobody is going to write a challenge to it. And I publicly challenge them to come on that post and write anything that countervails what I wrote. This idea, people start these conversations with, I feel and I believe. I'm going to tell you right now, you're not ready to have a conversation here with that I feel. I feel is an emotional response. I'm not talking about feeling. I'm not talking about belief. Belief is a religious concept, and feeling is an emotional concept. I'm not talking about what I feel. It's what you know. We're talking about reasoning here. And I'm telling you that these things that the Constitution, with the framers put in place here, they did not. On the one hand, you don't want the president being sidetracked. That's what Mark Levine was saying this weekend. The president should not be diverted by having to deal with this, and this. Of course, that's true. But they put something in place that prevents that. People do not understand the Constitution. It puts in place things that if you carry it out, it prevents the things that they're trying to say the president has. But you must go through a process here. They don't want the president going out of control, but they at the same time want the office to be independent. But they don't want it to be independent to the point where it just goes off into a zone of where it can become destructive of the rights of the people. So they put a process in there where it separates the power, but it still limits it by the fact that if it goes out of control, you can bring it back under control through the impeachment process. You go read this carefully and see if I'm who's right here. I'm right. You don't have to, I'm going to tell you who's right. I'm right. All the scholars that would disagree with what I'm saying here, I'll tell you right now. There's none of them there's not one of them in this country, not one. I know you're not going to accept that because you think Harvard, Cornell, Yale, Princeton, you think those Ivy League schools. I'm a graduate of Eastern Michigan University. I'm the one here. And I'm telling you that they will not say publicly that anything I've said here is wrong. You have to go, you can bring the president into a court of law, but you must first of all bring about his impeachment and his conviction, because in the conviction there is a removal, and therefore that hedge around the president therefore is removed. He can be brought to a court. But without that process, be going through that process, that's impossible. And Biden is wrapping up. And Biden, if he's not impeached and convicted, and it's not going to happen because they're not going to do that now because it looks like his retaliation, retribution, and all the rest of it. But I'm telling you, he should be brought to trial. But you got to go through the process in order to bring that about. And that they did not do that with Donald Trump. And everything they did to Donald Trump was illegal. And now they are getting ready to go after those persons, not because of retribution. They're going after them because they were in violation of the law in terms of them trying to bring Trump down. Okay, I got to stop shouting here, but I'm right. And there's no scholars going to say anything other than what I said here today. Okay, got to calm down. Until next week, I want you to follow your dream. If you don't follow your dream,